All right, unit rates or rates is a ratio comparing two different units. So distance to time, weight to price, uh, money per hour. Uh, and so you put as a rate just the ratio of one over the other. So in this case, you travel 24 miles in 3 hours. So that would be 24 miles in 3 hours. So there's our ratio, but it's a rate because now we're comparing miles to hours. And then on our second one, you spend $10 on 4 pounds of apples. So this would be price of 10 over 4 pounds. Okay, and this is going to be common for buying groceries or traveling. You're going to see these units quite often. And what we're going to be looking at is the unit rate. So the unit rate is comparing the first unit to a single unit of the second, of whatever the denominator is. So how this looks, or how you find the unit rate, is you simply divide the numerator by the denominator. So for example 1, it was 24 miles per hour. So our unit rate, we want to find how fast we go in 1 hour. So that's going to equal our numerator divided by our denominator. So make sure your numerator goes under the bracket, denominator is outside. 3 can go into 24. 8 times should be 24. 0, bring down the last 0, and that would just be 0. So that tells us that you're going 80 miles per hour. Or you're going 80 miles in 1 hour. And miles per hour is also noted as mph. Okay, the next one, for $10 you get 4 pounds of apples. So we want to know what we're paying per pound. So that's going to equal, so 4, or 10 divided by 4. So 4 can go into 10 twice, giving us 8. Notice I bring up my decimal before I bring down the 0. So now 4 can go into 25 times. So this tells us that you are paying $2.50 per pound for these apples. And LBS just represents pounds. Okay, so that's how you find unit rate. You just divide the top number by the bottom, or the numerator by the denominator. So now if James makes $480 for 40 hours of work, what does he make per, that shouldn't be week, that should be hour. Okay, so that would be 480 is our top value, and it's per 40 hours. So to find what he makes per hour, we're going to divide 480 by 40. Once again, our numerator goes under the bracket. 40 can go into 48 once, giving us 40. And then 40 can go into 80 twice, giving us 80, 0. Everything cancels out. We use up all our terms. So that tells us that he makes $12 per hour. So unit rate, once again, you're just dividing the top number by the bottom. Okay, and now we're going to kind of work backwards. We're given a unit rate, and we need to find kind of our total amount, our outcome. So solving this problem, Tom is traveling for the holiday. If he travels at a rate of 50 miles per hour for 8 hours, how far did he travel? So if we know that he's going 50 miles in 1 hour, we're just going to multiply that by 8 hours. Now I set it up this way because as you set up this way, when you have an hour divided by an hour, you're going to get rid of an hour, or get rid of the hours, being left with only miles. And that's what we're trying to find, the number of miles Tom travels. So all we have to do simply is just multiply now 50 times 8, because if we're going 50 miles per hour and we travel that speed for 8 hours, that's going to be 50 miles each hour. So multiplication, and that gives us 400 miles. Okay, one last one. Josh gets paid $10 an hour. He wants to buy a Nintendo Switch and 2 games for $375. How many hours does he have to work to pay for the gaming system? So this is going to turn into a one-step equation. So we know that he's getting paid $10 per hour. So we're going to have to multiply that by number of hours he has to work. And we know that he needs to make $375. Okay, so we set up our equation. We now need to solve. So we're solving for h for hours. So we're going to divide by our $10. That's going to cancel out here, leaving us with h, which equals, so h is going to equal 375 divided by $10. So once again, 375 under the bracket, 10 out front. 10 can go into 37 3 times. So 10 can go to 75 7 times. Bring down the 0, but it's one that I added after the decimal, so I've got to put my decimal up after the 7. And 10 can go into 55 times. And there we have nothing else to bring down, and we're at 0, so there's no remainder. So then the number of hours needed to work would be 37.5. So that's using finding unit rate and then using unit rate to solve problems.